Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video, bit of a feedback video today, go through some of the comments, have a bit of an informal chat about what's going on around the country. Day 199 today, I'm in the nervous 90s, just before cracking that double ton, and I'm a bit nervous, to be honest. You never know if you're going to get out on a nasty delivery just before you reach that 200. And sitting here again in the garden, I've changed the angle. Maybe you'll see a couple of cats stroll by in the background there, a couple of those wild cats that we have a problem with in this area. Now, it's a fantastic day today. It's the 29th of September, and it is San Miguel or Saint Michael's Day. And of course, today might not mean anything to you if your name is not Michael, but here in Spain, when the weather's good around this time of year, as it is today, you'll hear people talking about the Veranillo de San Miguel, the St. Michael's little summer, that would be, meaning that you quite often get a taste of good weather this time of the year, hence the name Veranillo de San Miguel. Now, I had somebody in the comment section say, why don't you bring some good news for a change? And to be honest, there's not a lot of good news around at the moment. We know the situation here in Madrid. Lots of people on edge at the moment because of the situation. People are nervous. Who can blame them? You only have to read the newspapers to realize that the situation is a little bit out of control according to the press. And of course, there are confinements going on again, not only in Madrid capital city, but also in the Madrid community and other places around the country as well. Places in Castilla y León, places in La Rioja, going back into a confinement. And to be honest, a lot of people thought that we had put the talk of lockdowns, put the talk of confinements behind us after those terrible months that we went through at the beginning of the year. But as we know, this virus is very, very difficult to get under control. And of course, the situation, as we have mentioned in recent times, has been mismanaged since we came out of lockdown. Some could say that it was mismanaged earlier. Some would say that it was mismanaged from day one. But I'll give the governments a little bit of praise and start my criticism when that new normal began, when things that should have been done unfortunately weren't, and now we find ourselves in this situation again. Now, of course, Catalonia is back in the news again today. The president of the Catalan region has been banned from office. Spain's justice system has banned Mr. Torra, Quim Torra, and of course he has to leave office, and that will mean that new elections will be held in Catalonia in coming months. Not sure exactly when, but I think early next year will be the time that they have to celebrate some type of elections. And of course, one of the reasons he was banned, not sure if it's the only reason he was banned, but one of the reasons is that he refused to take down banners that showed support for the Catalan prisoners, the people from Catalonia who were imprisoned because of that referendum a few years ago, or the illegal referendum, I should say, in the eyes of the Spanish government. Now, I haven't heard a lot about how Mr. Torra has reacted to this news, whether he stepped down peacefully, whether he left office peacefully, or whether he locked himself in. Some people said that he was going to lock himself in some type of protest, but I don't think that happened, and I think everything went fairly smoothly in Catalonia. So another Catalan president banned from office. I think that's now number 2. I think Mr. Puigdemont also was banned from office, and of course his replacement, Mr. Torra, now finds himself in the same situation. Don't want to talk too much about it because I'll open up a whole can of worms in the comment section with the pro-Catalan people and the anti-Catalan people giving their points of view there, so don't want to talk too much about it. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's video that they were talking about trying to organise some type of travel corridors for Easter, for next Easter. I think the government said they're working on travel corridors with the UK in order to bring people safely to places like the Canary Islands, to places like Benidorm, to other tourist destinations in a safe way. And that sort of gives you an idea of how long this is going to go on for. If the government is planning these travel corridors for next year, then obviously they don't think that this pandemic situation will be under control by them. And we all know that the government tried to set up travel corridors earlier in the year, but they weren't successful because of the quarantine rules and regulations that were slapped on people that were travelling to Spain. If you came from the UK, you had a 14-day quarantine going back. Other countries around Europe also had something similar. That German corridor that was set up at the beginning also proved to be a bit of a failure, so things didn't go well with the last travel corridors that the government tried to set up. So we'll see if the next ones are more successful. But the question is, what's what's travel going to look like in the future? Are we ever going to be able to travel in the same way again? Are people going to be willing to hop on a plane next year? Are people going to be willing to travel overseas again in the near future? Or what's it going to take for people to go back to their old travel ways? I, for example, at the moment For me at the moment, it's extremely difficult to get back to Australia, and if I had to go there for an emergency, what would the situation be like? Would I be able to get a ticket home? Would I be able to get a cheap ticket home? That's the question. I've heard some of the prices going around at the moment. People are talking business class fares in order to get back to Australia, and there's a limit on how many people can come in. So what happens if you have to travel for a family emergency, for example? So lots of question marks hanging over the future of travel. Now, the government has also announced that they're going to extend the furlough scheme here in Spain. They're going to extend it until the 31st of January, and it's going to be for companies that can prove that they don't have normal activity in the next few months. And I suppose what they mean by that is normal activity compared to previous years. Companies are most likely going to have to produce their balance sheets for the last couple of years, compare it to their activity this year, and prove that they're not in that normal situation in order for those workers to continue in the furlough scheme. So some relief at least for people that haven't been able to get back into their jobs since this pandemic began. And let's be honest, there's lots of companies with financial problems at the moment. I read in the paper earlier today that something like 6 out of every 10 companies here in Spain are going to have losses this year, so a difficult situation there for many companies. But again, we can see that there's a really difficult balancing act to find that point between the economy and the health situation, and that's what politicians are trying to do. Now, I saw another comment about the situation again in Totana in Murcia. Apparently they have gone back into a phase 1 situation down there for the second time since the end of the alarm. Can't remember exactly who the comment was from, and I'm sorry for that if I can't remember your name, but I think you also mentioned that the mayor of Totana is blaming these immigrant workers, or the workers that are working there in the fields picking the fruit and the vegetables, for the spread of the virus in that part of the world. Bad living conditions, lots of people living together in very small quarters, and of course the virus seems to be spreading there very, very quickly and forcing Totana again to go back to that phase 1 situation. But apparently it's a light phase 1. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but obviously not as strict as the one that we had back earlier in the year. So Totana and Murcia are just one of the many places struggling to get the virus under control at the moment. And in another comment, somebody asked me if I have finished the book Iberia yet by James A. Michener, and the answer to that question is no. I'm still in the Badajoz section. I think that's right at the beginning of the book, maybe the second chapter. Michener is still in Badajoz, experiencing everything that that city has to offer. The problem that I have is I don't have a lot of time to read at the moment, unfortunately. I'm working on a couple of other things, and that's taking up all my time, and I'm reading the book on my phone. So what normally happens is I start reading, and then I fall asleep, the phone crashes down, hits me in the head, I wake up, and I go back to sleep. So that's where I am with the book at the moment. But don't worry, I'm slowly getting through it, and I'm really enjoying the book. Michener is a fantastic writer, and the way he describes that part of the world at that time is absolutely fascinating. And finally, another comment that caught my attention. Somebody asked me about the demographics of this channel, and the good news is that I can tell you some of the main demographics, who the people are that watch these videos. I can tell you some of the ages, I can tell you whether they are male or female viewers, and I can also give some of the demographics on where people are watching the videos from. And I'll start with that. Well, the number 1 country is the UK, the second country is Spain, the third country the United States, the fourth country Canada, and at number 5 is Ireland. So the UK and Spain by far the biggest groups as to where viewers are from that are watching these videos. The second thing we'll talk about is the age group, and 87% of the viewers of this channel are 35 plus. For some reason, don't know what it is, I don't really appeal to the younger generations. The majority of people, as I said, are over 35, and if you go through the other demographics there as well, the over 45s, the over 55s, and the over 65s, you'll see that there are a lot of viewers in those age groups as well. And when it comes to gender demographics, the male-female ratio, 70% of the viewers are male and 30% are female, according to the information that I have on the back end of my YouTube page. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Debate the situation out as you normally do. I like to see lots and lots of comments there, to go through the comments and see what people are thinking, what people's opinions are on some of the things that I mention in these videos. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.